few questions that I felt were very topical and things that people would probably wish to address this evening and have some guidance on their own portfolio and what they should do in this economic environment. The first thing I want to do is, you know, we saw, I don't know if we describe it as the shenanigans of the first debate, and I just wanted to get, because it's very topical, your reaction to the first debate that happened the other night.
Well, thank you very much. I just got a chat from somebody who said if we don't get going in 5 minutes, I'm leaving. And if that's how impatient you are in this world, then why don't you leave? I don't need people to tell me that I have to tell you everybody something that is super exciting. I don't have to yell at you to tell you what's going on in the world. I don't have to act like Donald Trump did on the debate. I thought he is his worst enemy. And it's really a sad commentary because my main issue, my main reason for having this webinar with you, Mike, today is to warn people we are headed for major trouble because Trump has made the decision to just be self-aggrandizing, interrupting, being very unpresidential. And as a result, if you look at the electionbettingodds.com website, Biden picked up 6 points as a result of this debate and now has a 60% chance of being elected. Not only Biden, but the Democrats taking over the Senate and the House. This is catastrophic when you realize the kind of things that the administration, the Biden administration is proposing. Not only a Green New Deal, which will destroy the oil and gas business and raise the cost of energy dramatically, but we're talking about massive increase in taxes. I'm speaking to investors, and investors need to know that Biden is proposing the elimination of the capital gains tax break, which will raise rates from 23.9% to over 40%, maybe even 50%. I mean, he is no friend of investors. He is no friend of business. So we're describing a situation which is a Humpty Dumpty economy that can't be put back together again. And this is going to require, just as in 2020, we had to make dramatic changes in our portfolio. We had to move away from the income investing that had been so successful to us in the past. In my newsletter, Forecasts and Strategies, we had to shift to online type of stocks, investing in Tesla, in ARK Innovation Fund. There's all kinds of examples of stocks that have done really well. And we've had to make that kind of shift. Well, let me tell you something. After November 4th, or however long it takes for Biden to be declared the winner, we're going to face a sell-off that is going to be dramatic because investors are going to have all these gains in these stocks and they're going to sell their stocks knowing that the stock rate is going to go up dramatically. So there's going to have to be a big shift in our portfolio. And one of the reasons we're doing the post-election seminar in person so that we can talk privately and so nobody needs to know what we're talking about, and we need to do this, it's really important, then we're going to need to make major changes in our portfolio. And that's what I'm talking to you about today. We need to be alert. We need to be aware of what is going on. The only reason the stock market has gone up recently after the debates is because the stimulus package is packed, and that's totally artificial. And it is full of waste. You cannot believe what the Democrats are putting in there. Can you imagine adding billions of dollars more in the Department of Education? I mean, that is a complete waste. So I hope that answers your question. I hope that stimulates enough interest for your readers to pay attention. I write a newsletter called Forecasts and Strategies, and my forte is predicting the future, forecasting the future. And in the January prediction issue, I said, quote, the outlook for stocks, gold, and the dollar is positive as we enter 2020. But beware of a black swan event that could derail the longest running bull market in history. And not only that, but the economy and a lot of other things that have made dramatic changes in 2020. And it's not over. So, folks, know the signs of the times. Get ready for trouble ahead. Mike, back to you.
Mark, it's interesting because it's on, and a lot of the Investment Club of America members who are listening tonight are well aware of it. In January of this year, I did a 90-minute economic outlook for 2020, and in it, I discussed in detail why I felt that the membership had to bring their gold and silver position to at least 10% of their total net worth. And for those who actually followed my teachings a little bit more, bringing it up to as high as 20%. What I want to do on this evening's webinar, Mark, is I'm going to, and I want to get definitely your feedback, because you're certainly in the genius category, and your results and performance have been stellar, outperforming the markets, and so is the club over the last several years. But I think where we're really going to help our listeners this evening is if, for example, we talk about, okay, where's the best place to invest if the Democrats win? Where's the best place to invest if the Republicans win? And I'll throw out a couple things, and then I'll let you take it from there. It's pretty obvious that if the Democrats win, that we're going to see a lot more push towards wind, solar, green energy. And one of the things that one industry, as an example, that's been in the tank for the last almost 2 years now. However, there will be loosening, I believe, regulation, and it will favor these stocks, would be in the marijuana industry under a Biden presidency. So this is kind of where I'd like to see where you and I collectively could guide the listeners on the phone tonight, what they do in the event the Democrats win, what they do in the event the Republicans win. You have a lot of ideas. I certainly have a lot of ideas. You are the star. And certainly, as I said in the opening, you have a remarkable performance record. And, I think we could share, some good ideas. And so let's start with there. What are your thoughts of, we could kind of go negative on why we're so worried if the Democrats win, but we could spin it. What are the opportunities if the Democrats win? What do you think?
So, Mike, that was the longest running question I've ever had in my life. If you were Chris Wallace, my gosh. Anyway, first of all, there's no guarantee that Biden is going to win. I mean, yes, the futures market, the betting game does suggest that Biden is going to win and the Democrats are going to win the Senate and the House. So, but I need to tell you and warn you that these prediction betting prediction models vary a great deal. So it's still possible to Trump pulling out a win, but he has to act better in the future debates. He has to have good economic results. The jobs report is going to come out 1 week before the before the election, and more importantly, it's very unusual for any incumbent to win re-election during a recession, depression, or what have you. So you have to have strong economic indicators coming out, and they will be coming out. The GDP statistic will rise. The gross output statistic will rise then. So you could see Trump making a dramatic comeback, but he has to demonstrate that he's emotionally stable. And he did not do that in this election. It's so funny because we all thought Biden was the one who was going to fail and was going to show his senility. And it turned out that Trump was the one who showed his juvenile behavior. So if that can turn around, then we could have the Republicans win. And if we have the Republicans win, you're going to see another soaring stock market across the board. It's not going to, we don't have to pick individual stocks. Technology is going to do well. Finance is going to do well. The market is just going to roar ahead. And gold will probably retreat a little bit if that happens. However, gold is still a long-term, really good investment because we have a Humpty Dumpty economy. I don't know if we're going to be able to show the two charts that whoever's president is going to inherit these problems. And we can show that at some point here. But you asked the question, what about investing for if the Democrats win? First of all, you have to remember that the stock market is going to sell off. And the reason it's going to sell off is because people are going to take profits on their technology stocks, and that's going to drive, especially the NASDAQ, down sharply. And yes, there are individual sectors, as we say on Wall Street, this is a market of stocks, not a stock market. And there are individual stocks that will do well in the green type of solar energy, and alternative energy stocks will do well. You might even want to short the oil stocks. They'll probably go down even further. I mean, you have out here in California, where I live right now, a governor who said in 2035, they're going to eliminate all gasoline-based cars and trucks. It's really, look, the market can take care of itself in that respect. But anyway, that's the kind of future we're facing if the Democrats maintain control. Marijuana stocks have been in a major bear market, not so much because of the demand side, but the supply side. There have been so many different companies come on board that the stocks have simply collapsed. So I would not invest in those stocks until there's an indication that the market is turning around. Democrats have been tended to be more liberal when it comes to drug legalization, but I don't put anything past Biden in terms of lockdown of the economy, forcing everyone to wear masks on a nationwide basis. I mean, there's a lot of craziness that could go on. It doesn't matter when one party controls all three branches of government. That's always a dangerous situation, whether it's the Republicans, which was the case in 2000 when they took over. We got the Iraqi war, we got the financial crisis of 2008. And then when the Democrats took over, we got Obamacare and Dodd-Frank. So you want gridlock. We as investors want gridlock, and hopefully we will have it. But that's not what the election odds say at this point.
You know, a couple things, Mark. If Biden was to win, I think we would certainly see a boom in some industries such as Medicare health insurers, with 23 million more people being added to Medicare, as an example. And one area that a lot of people don't really think about, but if we were to see capital gains tax go, or capital taxes go from 21%, or corporate tax from 21% up to 28%, which is the likely number for Biden, what would happen is an industry that's been hard beaten up and really hasn't done much over the last several years, real estate investment trusts would become attractive again because of their tax benefits, where as long as they put out, I believe it's 90% in dividends, they don't have to pay any federal tax. So I guess what I'm talking about is there are some interesting variables that do occur in opportunities with the victory of the Democrats. And I know you and I are libertarian, and we certainly on a political spectrum are certainly to the right and more laissez-faire and less government interference in our lives as possible. But I think we also have to be prepared that the Democrats are elected, possibly even in a sweep. and investors have to be prepared to invest in that manner and take advantage in the event the Democrats are in fact elected and they go through a blue sweep, which I think is a possibility because of the absolutely horrible performance of Trump the other night. I know everyone listening may not agree with me, but I think unpresidential is certainly an adjective. And I found it very difficult, Mark, to watch that debate. I found myself actually getting hot because I was just thinking this is such a bad testament of display of the leaders of our country. That's what really went through my head, and you know, it's the polls have come out in a lot of ways, and who believes the polls after the last election? But you know, I think your guidance is phenomenal. Let's go with in the event the Republicans were to win the election. What do you think would do particularly well?
So you cover a lot of territory there. Let me first of all say that I really dislike any reference to my views as right wing. I never use this term. Left, I don't even use left wing as well. I think these kind of divisive terms are not useful at all. I do think we have a streak of authoritarianism going on in both Republicans and Democrats, more the Democrats than the Republicans in terms of shutting down the economy. The governors in particular in the Democratic states were much harsher in, and still are, the mandates to wear masks and social distancing and the limiting number of people and so forth. This is really unfortunate that we are that our government leaders don't depend, don't feel that they can trust us as individuals, as businesses, as universities. They have to tell us what to do. I mean, it's a great tragedy what is happening in this country. Now, one of your, I'm reading the chat notes and people are asking questions and making comments. One of them is, well, what about the silent majority? Can't that win out and Trump can take advantage of that like he did in 2016? Well, things are a little bit different in 2020. Yes, Trump was victorious because of the secret ballot, because people weren't willing to say that they were voting for Trump, and that's still the case today. But the difference is that voting is going to be, probably the majority of votes are now going to be mail-in, and it's much easier. It's just convenient for you to vote, and you can have all kinds of shenanigans going on. I mean, this idea that there's not going to be any voter fraud, I think, is nonsense. John Fund, who is the premier expert on voting fraud and is our number one political analyst, is coming to our post-election seminar summit on November 6th and 7th, and he is going to give us a full report on what is happening, because it's even conceivable that Trump wins on Tuesday night and then loses 3 days later during our conference when all the mail order votes are counted. So this is going to create a great deal of uncertainty. So one of your people saying, well, I've listened to you and so on, you haven't given any specific stock recommendations and so forth. And you know why? Because the market hates uncertainty. And so there's only short-term trades that are worth going and doing right now. And we do have a lot of those short-term trades that you can be involved in. But what could we say is a great investment between now and November 3rd or 4th? It's really hard to predict something because, I mean, I am fully invested right now, although I have started building a large cash position because of the uncertainty of what is going on. I'm waiting for what is going to happen after this extremely important vote. So we're second guessing what is going to happen when the Republicans wins or the Democrats win. Do you have those two charts? Because those are really important, Mike. Are we able to put those two charts up to show what, doesn't matter whether Republicans or Democrats win. I want to show you the two charts of the challenges that the next administration is going to face. Do we have those?
Sure. I know Tech is momentarily working on it to get it up. Um, and I think, Mark, you touched on John Fund. You touched on November 6th and 7th. And do you think a good way of sort of encapsulating November 6th and 7th would be a lot of what is going to be discussed during those 2 days are things that a lot of times you're not going to hear in the popular media, and things and guidance that will be truly well thought out ideas without any agenda other than to just try to give the best value to the people who are in attendance.
Yeah, so we have a great lineup of speakers. I've already mentioned John Fund as our premier political analyst, who is coming from New York to Las Vegas in an undisclosed location because we don't want publicity. We're talking to you as a small group of people, a couple hundred people. We're encouraging you to come to this meeting because we're going to be able to speak privately, off the record. For those of you who can't come, we are going to have some recordings, but there's going to be a lot of discussions that are going to be on the sidelines, a person to person type of discussions. And this is extremely important in today's environment where surveillance is everywhere. We need to have an opportunity in person to meet and discuss what people are really thinking. And so we have several of my favorite investment writers who are part of the Eagle Publishing Group. So, in addition to myself, we have Jim Woods, who is one of the premier traders and bloggers in finance. We have Hillary Kramer, who's coming, who has a great service. You know, one of you asked, what about specific investment advice? She has the 2-day trader, which has been highly successful. And there's going to be so much volatility in these markets from day to day that the 2-day trader is really a remarkable service. So I'm looking forward to Hillary Kramer coming and talking to us specifically what that would be. Brian Perry is a investment advisor who is really good on telling us what the problems are that we're facing, and is an income investor who talks about high income investing and where can investors go to earn high income. I see that, Mike, there we're putting up the charts. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
The first chart is the deficits that the government is facing. This is unprecedented in peacetime because of this lockdown, which was one of the stupidest things, if not the stupidest thing the government has ever done in peacetime. And as soon as we realized that our models were defective and that this virus was not as serious as we thought it was, like it was going to be the 1918 pandemic and millions of people were going to be killed in the United States, we should have loosened up on the economy. Now, fortunately, the data seems to show that the economy can turn around fairly quickly, but these deficits are totally out of control. In fact, the chart that shows 2020 deficit going up to 4.2 will add $2 trillion on top of that to $6.2 trillion. And if anybody thinks that the deficits are going to go down sharply after that, is deceived. It's not going to happen. The government, we have built a Humpty Dumpty government, not the economy, but the government, and you can't put it back together again. It's one of the most irresponsible Congresses and presidencies that I have ever seen in terms of just falling all over each other to just spend money. And then if we can show the second chart, can we put that up?
Mhm.
Oh, somebody asked, will this be available afterwards? Mike, have you made copies of the, or is this being recorded so people can see this later?
Yeah, we have. And one thing that's sort of interesting what you say, Mark, and it in a lot of ways it's our culture, it's our constitution, but a lot of uh, and there's two parts to this. The American public in recent surveys have been asked what they would prefer in terms of the degree of a lockdown, and only 5% um, wanted a full lockdown, and 80% plus talked in terms of masks and social distancing. And that's very interesting because you in the United States, because of our Constitution, it's almost in many respects as if we have 50 independent countries that are all operating with 50 different systems for making decisions on how to deal with the virus. And I do like power at a state level, and it's consistent with our founding fathers and how they wanted things to be. And you know, the federal government, in a lot of respects, was founded really only in the event to help the absolute destitute or to protect us in the event of war. And power was always supposed to be at a state level. But in this case, during the pandemic, it's the first time that I'm seeing something at a state level where we're seeing 50 different states making 50 different decisions. But the point, I guess the main point is over 80% of Americans don't want a lockdown in the economy, and they simply will observe social distancing. And it is pretty darn scary at, you know, the bailouts that are going to continue to happen. I know Pelosi and Mnuchin are in negotiations right now with another 2.2 trillion plus of stimulus, and that really
Not
speaks to
stimulus,
the
but
next
wait.
graph of where we're going to be going with money. Because you're right. I mean, cutting, you know, $1,200 checks and just printing all of that money. And you know, I'm as bullish as I've ever been on silver and gold, and that's a whole 1 hour discussion in and of itself. But the second chart is now up there, Mark. So go ahead.
Let me just say that it's federalism is really positive because it allows competition. We can compare states, and Steve Moore has been very good at this at the Heritage Foundation, showing that the states that are controlled by the Democrats have done much worse during the pandemic than the Republicans, and the Republicans have been more willing to open up. Florida, South Dakota, places like that, compared to New York and California. So that's the other point. The other thing I want to mention was the Swedish model is really turning out to be the most successful model. The New York Times, of all places, just wrote a very positive story 2 days ago how the Swedish model, which was not a lockdown and hardly anybody wears masks there and don't do much in terms of social distancing, they've really they're really over the coronavirus, and it's truly a model, and they were the outlier. So this kind of competition between countries and between states is really very good. Now, here's the second chart that is just mind-boggling. That the government, now they don't publish M3 anymore, so we had to get privately this information on the growth of the money supply. And it has been rising so dramatically. In fact, it's now up to 26% on an annual basis. And as you can see, that is inflationary. That suggests that we're pumping in a huge amount of money to chase fewer goods because our economy has been in recession. Now, the US has gotten away with inflation for many years because they can export it and because we're a world currency. Now, with the closing of the borders and making trade more difficult and globalization on the defense, we're going to see a dramatic increase in inflation, not only in prices, but in real assets. And that means gold as a really good investment. I'm really quite pleased to see that gold has been in a bit of a correction phase here over the last month. I'm sure, Mike, you've noticed that too. By the way, we're going to have the premier coin dealer,
Well,
Camino Coins, at the post-election seminar. Camino Coins I've dealt with for many years. They're one of the most reliable coin dealers, low-cost coin dealers for both bullion and rare coins. And they are actually going to be at our conference. Mike, I know you emphasize that, but this chart right here makes the case for gold so powerful and so simple. And the only reason gold has stayed down recently is probably through some kind of manipulation on the dollar, making the dollar strengthen when in fact the dollar is going to start showing quite a bit of weakness, in my opinion, as we go into the 2021 era. So one of the things we're going to do, we have Adrian Day coming. Adrian Day is one of the top experts on mining stocks and particularly penny stocks. Some of you know in my TNT Trader, we have added penny stocks all up double digits, even after the correction. And these penny stocks, they're real penny stocks. They're under $1, and but they're very real. They've made real discoveries. And it's just a matter of drilling and permitting and so forth in Mexico and other places around the world. And I'm very excited. We're talking about 300 to 400%, maybe even 1,000%, a 10-bagger a return on your money. And we are going to have Adrian Day talking and giving specific recommendations of penny stocks that could increase dramatically for those who are interested in an investment area that I think, based on this chart, is going to be a real winner. You won't want to miss that at our post-election summit.
You touched on quite a few things, Mark, and I'm in agreement. I'm more myself bullish on silver than gold. A lot of that, if we look at the last 6 cycles in secular bull markets in precious metals, silver has outperformed gold in 5 out of the 6 cycles. Now, one thing that I completely agree is we're going to see downward pressure in the US dollar, and that absolutely equates to higher gold and silver prices. But one thing I always say to the members of the Investment Club of America, I say, look, if you buy silver at $24 an ounce and it goes to $240 an ounce, is that good or bad? And so I ask, who thinks it's good? A certain number of hands go up. Who thinks it's bad? A certain number of hands go up. Many more go up when I say it's good. The answer is it's neither. And the reason I was ever to go to from $24 up to $240 an ounce, we would be looking at a very likely a collapse in many other asset classes that would take a direct impact on the portfolios of all those who are listening. So what I try to tell everyone is, look, it's very bullish for silver and gold right now, but it is always a hedge of insurance for your portfolio. And in January, when silver was hovering around $14 an ounce, and gold at $1,400 an ounce, and all the members who are listening can attest to this, I basically had stated at that point, at least 10% of your portfolio, but for those who are a little bit more aggressive, bring it up to 20%. And on the one hand, gold and silver may have increased from, say, $1,400 up to $14 up to $27, $28 a few weeks ago. But the junior silver stocks have done a few hundred percentage points plus. So when you invest in it, there's tiers. A lot of people will simply do a silver or gold ETF, and those do reasonably well. But where you actually get much more performance is if you find really good junior gold and silver stocks and you do several hundred percentage points. And that's where Adrian Day comes in. And I completely agree. Having someone like that out at the November 6th and 7th event that we're doing is going to be absolutely golden to those who are in attendance for guidance. So well put, Mark. And, this is just a testament to the quality of people who are coming out to our 2-day event.
Yes, agreed. I'm really excited about our 2-day event. I hope you, those of you who are listening, will join us. We are totally optional in terms of your approach there in terms of wearing a mask and that sort of thing? We've had people ask, is that going to be mandatory and that sort of thing? It's optional at the undisclosed location where we are going to have it. And if you wear a mask, that's fine. If you don't wear a mask, that's fine too. I think we're going to have probably the most important conference that we've had all year long. And because it's in person, it can be private, it can be off the record. We are going to talk about gold and silver. I'm probably one of the few people who always carries with me a gold and silver coin. This is the American Eagle silver dollar, unleveraged but private. You can put it in your pocket and disappear. You can hand it to someone. You can use it for transactions. You can use it as a gift, use it in business and that sort of thing. And then I have a Mexican 50 peso, which is 1.2 ounces of gold. These are beautiful coins, and I think it's tragic that we have these coins that we stow away in a safety deposit box rather than getting out there and showing them and using them. You're going to have to protect yourself from the growing inflation, the crisis that is coming. And what better inflation hedge than gold and silver? Yes, we'll talk about cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency depends on a computer that's working. You mentioned the possibility of silver going to $240 an ounce. Now, I'm not making those kinds of predictions. I do think that silver in this bull market will, for the third time, go over $50 an ounce, which is the all-time record that was achieved in 2000 or in 1980 and 2011. So that's my prediction, that it will go over $50. If it goes to 240 and gold goes to 5,000, for example, which would be comparable, we're talking about total chaos in the streets. And let me tell you something. A lot of people are underestimating the impact of protests. If Trump wins again, I can guarantee you that Antifa and Black Lives Matter, these people are going to be out in droves. And it is going to be a serious problem in major cities, and you better be prepared for it. And if you think the stock market is going to roar ahead during those protests, think again. You've got to have some protection. You have to have some gold and silver. Maybe the gun stocks will go up. I don't know, but I cry for my country. The way we saw that debate going on, to see how we have declined in our cultural civility, the way people are yelling at each other and saying you have to say Black Lives Matter to your face and something like that. Do we need this kind of thing? The agitation that's going on in this country cannot be underestimated, and you better get used to it, because that's what I think is happening in the new 20s era, and we have to protect ourselves. And it may even mean there may be places in the United States that we don't go to anymore. Sad to say. Who knows what kind of cultural impact that we're going to have. At Freedom Fest, we've had an emergency meeting that we just held yesterday. You can go to freedomfest.com to look at our 2-hour session with Dave Rubin. And we've had thousands and thousands of people watch this. We've had over 40,000 people who have already watched this, because Dave Rubin podcast, he has such a huge following. And we talked about the cultural changes that are going on in this country. And that's another thing that we're going to talk about at our post-election summit. We've run out of time, but maybe, Mike, you can tell everybody what the basic story is on the November 6th and 7th post-election summit, and that it's going to be in Las Vegas, an undisclosed location. But tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, absolutely. Just a couple of things I want to address very quickly. I didn't predict that silver was going to go to $240 an ounce. What I said, in the event that we ever saw silver go to $240 an ounce, it would have meant something like the derivatives market blew up, or something extreme happens to a point where all the other asset classes are worth nothing, or are down to a small percentage of what they're actually worth at this point. I'm in agreement with you that I think we will see silver prices that will exceed $50. Similar, but it will be based more on fundamentals than something where the Hunts cornered the market in the 1980s. One other thing that's very interesting, just a point to make on the instability and so on, is when people try to go online right now and they buy munitions, everything is sold out just about everywhere. And that's kind of a scary thing I've never seen before, Mark. And then when we talk about Black Lives Matter, you and I discussed it at the last Investment Club of America meeting, along with Joanne, your wife. And there's certainly two things. There's Black Lives Matter, the statement, and then Black Lives Matter, the
which is a
organization.
Marxist
And so
organization.
I have, and you and I have a great deal of concerns about the organization, and we've expressed them in detail. And I'm sure we're going to address that a little bit at the November 6th and 7th meeting. Now, the global financial summit, if everyone who's listening, if you want to get more details about the speakers and you want to learn more about the agenda, you actually can just go into your web browser and enter Global Financial Summit and November 6th and 7th, and it will give you information about who the speakers are. We don't announce the hotel, but I think, Mark, I'm gonna say right now, Vegas has just opened up the numbers of people that can attend a public event. And I think it's much better if because we now have enough room, we're going to be able to accommodate. And I believe we're going to sell out. But I think it's okay that we actually tell the people on the webinar where the event is going to be, because it has loosened up a little bit here in Vegas on how many people can attend. Doing this live, it's not always the best way to do it, but do you agree that we can tell which hotel we're going to hold it at?
I would rather not, because Las Vegas is under the imperial governor of Nevada, and he can reverse himself at some time. I mean, he has locked down Freedom Fest.
Okay.
He closed us down. There was no apologies, no hearings, no offer to compensate the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've lost. So I think people should find out. We need to keep a low profile on this event. We know we have to be careful, because the person who runs this event center is somebody who would probably prefer to maintain a low profile at this point. I really think that we need to be concerned about, look, as soon as people sign up, you already know it's in Las Vegas. As soon as you sign up, you'll be given the name of the hotel. You'll be given the information to contact the hotel and to the price and so forth. But we want to maintain a low profile. So I would just hold off announcing it. Let people register, and I think we'll be fine. But it's not one of those things where, in fact, no media. We're not even inviting the media. And by the way, I need to mention one other speaker. Barbara Combe is coming all the way from Europe, from Austria. Yeah. And will give us a full report of what's going on in Europe. So this is going to be a global financial summit, and our focus is going to be on the election and what the impact is going to be. It kind of reminds me of 1980, when Ronald Reagan won in 1980. I was at the New Orleans conference. It was standing room only. People wanted to know, because it was a big change, and people sold their gold and silver, and they bought stocks and bonds, traditional investments, because of Reagan. I suspect that this is going to be the opposite, where people are going to want to be selling their stocks and bonds in general and having to look for specific investments, particularly in the non-traditional areas, which you and I specialize in. So I encourage everyone to sign up for this post-election summit. Come in person. If you're sick and tired of sitting at home all day, which a lot of people are, now's the chance to fly in or drive into Las Vegas and join us at the post-election summit.
Mark, I agree. I agree, and I certainly I go along. What I will tell you about the hotel, everyone. Number one, that's fantastic. No resort fee. Number two, this particular hotel rivals any of the top hotels on the strip for the quality of the rooms. And number three, parking is now free and it's easily accessible. And so all of those reasons make the hotel fantastic. And the final thing is $99 a night. So we're ecstatic at the quality of the hotel and the pricing that we got on the booking. So we're very, very happy about it. It's right on. You can see right on the strip itself. So we're very, very pleased with that. To sign up, it's you simply will go to Global Financial Summit. It's $299 a ticket, no tax. It gets paid on our end, and it's as straightforward as that. And then you can come out. For the members who are listening, and I will put it out tomorrow, between now and the end of October, I'm going to be doing another economic outlook for the balance of the year, based on what I see in the world in the economy. What are specific investment strategies that I think will work in the next few months? And that'll be a great lead up to the November 6th and 7th event anyway. And for guests who are listening, you're certainly, whether you're in town or out of town, you're certainly welcome as a guest to attend that one. And we do film it, so you could reach out if you want a copy of that particular club meeting.
Mike,
Mark,
let me
you
mention
are a
one other
class
thing, if I
act.
could. Mike, if I could mention that we're having a very good response so far to the Global Summit. We have almost 100 people already signed up, and we have that limit of 250 in a room, and I think we're going to fill that. We may have to have a waiting list. So we encourage you to sign up if you can, and you and I will be the co-hosts, and we have some great speakers. So I look forward to it. And if anybody wants to contact us, feel free to contact us. I'm at markskousen.com. And Mike, you're at the Investment Club of America. It's just great. It'd be great to see everybody.
Yeah, the best way would be
go ahead.
Yeah, the best way would be service at investmentclubofamerica.com. Certainly, we're responsive to all inquiries. One thing about Mark, as I said in the beginning, Mark is a gentleman with just with the knowledge of so many volumes of well-written material, but then he takes all of that material and he thinks so brilliantly in a way that he applies it on what's going on in the world and in a practical sense where people can maximize returns. And what you're looking at is a gentleman who now for years has outperformed the markets consistently. And it's going to be an event of people who are overachievers and overperformers. Because one thing I want to say before we terminate, Mark, as I said, we would go 59 minutes and we're going to go 59 minutes and then we terminate at that or before. But one thing I want a lot of people to realize is that over 90% of money managers underperform the market index. And that's scary because they are, in my opinion, the least talented, most overpaid people. And I say least talented because 90% of them underperform the index. And as far as overpaid, think about it. If you're managing $10 billion a year and your management fee is just 1%, that's $100 million a year that you receive, plus expenses. And I've always been an advocate that there has to be changes in the financial services industry that just are too slow in the making. And then you have people like Mark who come along who give recommendations and guidance that consistently outperform these guys. And that's what you're going to be in a room. You're going to be in a room full of very high level people who have outstanding records of performance. And certainly you're going to hear a lot of things that you don't hear in the popular media. And
Mike.
so looking forward to seeing a lot of you out there. And as I said to the guests who are listening, who are members of the club, you're certainly welcome. We're going to get out the next few days an agenda for our next club meeting, and you can attend either by watching or if you live in Vegas, you could attend locally. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you. We got a few minutes left. Any last final words before we terminate the webinar this evening?
Yes, I think that you can make the case that people who are survivors in this business, and I've been in the investment world since the early 1970s. Probably attended more investment conferences than any person alive. If there was a Guinness Book of World Records of attendance and speaking at money shows, New Orleans conference, the Freedom Fest, financial privacy conferences, the Investment Club of America. I usually speak, a dozen, 2 dozen of these conferences a year. And I like to get out and meet with people and find out what they're really thinking. So I've been writing my own newsletter, Forecasts and Strategies, since 1980 when Ronald Reagan was elected president. And the newsletter is called Forecasts and Strategies. And I think that's really important to be able to forecast what is going on. And I've made some mistakes in my own career in bad investment advice and bad forecasts. But in the main, the reason my newsletter is still around after 40 years is because most of my predictions have been accurate, including the January 2020 issue where I predicted a black swan event. I just knew that 2020 was a unique year, and I didn't know exactly what it would mean. But just like 2001 and 9/11 was a huge change in the way we do work and business and life in general. So 2020 has changed us forever, culturally, politically, economically, spiritually, and financially. So that's why we're holding these in-person conferences and not just doing everything on Zoom or webinars and that sort of thing, which restrict us and limit us in many ways. So I look forward to seeing all of you at this summit next month. It's only like 5 weeks away. It's very exciting. And please sign up and come join us. Believe me, you will not regret it. It will be extremely worthwhile, especially with our penny stock promotions and some of the other penny stock recommendations that we're making. So I always end my thank yous by saying, so long, fellow free marketeers. And remember, AEIOU. Turn it back to you, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark, it's so interesting, and I'll just say it like in the January meeting of 2020, I talked about gold and silver, and like yourself, I talked about 3 reasons no one was predicting a recession or a downturn, and I said there's a much higher probability than people are discussing. And in the 90-minute presentation that I did for members, I went through 3 reasons why we could possibly see up to a 20% chance of a huge economic downturn. And the third reason that I talked about in detail with all the members there was a pandemic. So interesting. And you talked about it in January as a black swan event. So it's uncanny how we were both essentially saying the same thing at the same time.
Yep.
Mark, a pleasure. It's 6:58 Pacific Standard Time. We'll always start on time, finish on time. You've been a class act like you always are. Thank you for everything that you do, Mark.
Thank
Continue
you.
your brilliant education. And as I've told so many people, Freedom Fest, I go to a lot of conferences because I have to, but Freedom Fest is the one that I elect to go to because I enjoy it so much. So again, thank you for everything that you do, my friend, and
Thank you.
I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Good night, everyone. Take care.
Bye bye.